Three little seals and the big bad polar bear. How do I go to Dylan, how do I go to the next page? Long ago in the freezing Arctic there were three little seals. Their names were Isabel, Abby, and Sabrina. One day their mom told them, "You are big now. You should go make your own houses now." So they did. Isabel went straight, Abby went right, and Sabrina went left. "Goodbye, Mommy," they all shouted as they left. They all thought it would be fun. Oh, dang. That day, Isabel saw a big pile of snow. So she decided to make her house out of snow. She built and built as quick as a wink she was done. Her house was beautiful but very fragile. She found some wood for door and windows and a roof. "Voila!" she shouted to herself. "Beautiful!" she thought in her head. While Isabel was building her house, Abby already had built half of her house. Her house was not just a house; it was an igloo. "My house is the best," she said to herself. But her house was also fragile. "Yeah, my house is the best," Abby exclaimed to herself. At least she thought so. Sabrina was covered though, but she decided to make her house an iceberg. She built and built and built and built. Her house took 3 days to build. At the end, it was so pretty as a flower. It was shiny and sparkly. "Mine is the best," she thought. One day later, along came a big bad polar bear. She saw the first house, Isabel's. He saw the first house, Isabel's house. Little seal, let me come in," the big bad polar bear said. "Not by the hair on my whiskers, Isabel said. Scared then all scratched and I'll scratch and I'll hit your house down," the big bad polar bear said in a mean voice. So he did. But Isabel escaped luckily, but the polar bear followed her. When Isabel got to Abby's igloo, the polar bear went behind a pile of snow. "Let me in," cried Isabel. "Let me in," cried Isabel. So Abby quickly did. Little seals, let me come in," screamed the polar bear. "Not by the hair on our chinny and our whiskers. The seals cried. "Then I'll scratch and I'll hit your house down," the polar bear shouted. So he did. Luckily, Isabella and Abby escaped and ran to Sabrina's iceberg house. Let us in, they both cried. So Sabrina quickly did. Sabrina locked the door behind them. Little seals, let me come in," the polar bear was sure this time that he would get in. Not by the hair on our whiskers. They all screamed together. Then I'll scratch, and I'll hit your house down. So he scratched, and he scratched, but he could not hit the house down. So he decided to guard the house. He walked back and forth. Then Suddenly, the big bad polar bear hit his head on an iceberg. Boom! The polar bear fell to the ground. 1 hour later, he woke up. What's happening? He thought. Abby said, Abby said, you are playing with us. Okay, said the polar bear. So they played all day. And the polar bear never, ever, ever remembered what happened that day. The end.